Welcome to your grammar video for Orange Unit 1 Listening. This week, we'll talk about the present and past tense of the be verb, both its positive and negative forms. We'll also talk about how to form contractions using the be verb and how to ask yes and no and WH questions. Most sentences in English start with the subject. Often, we can use a subject pronoun, such as I, you, we, they, he, she, and it. The be verb can be used in three forms in the present tense: am, are, and is. We choose which form of the be verb to use based on the subject of the sentence. So if I have the subject I, we have to use am or am not to form the negative. You, we, they, we would use are or are not in the negative. He, she, and it, we use is or is not in the negative. Some examples: I am a teacher. I am not a doctor. He is a doctor. He's not a teacher. They are babies. They are not adults. To form a contraction, you can put the subject and the be verb together with an apostrophe to make one word. For example, I can join I and am to form the positive contraction I'm. You are becomes your, we are, were, they are, their, he is, he's, she is, she's, it is, its. Now, negative contractions can be formed in two ways. We can form a negative contraction using the subject and the be verb, or we can form a negative contraction using the be verb and the word not. For example, we have I'm not, using the subject I and be verb am. We join the two words together with an apostrophe and add the word not. Please note that if the subject is I, we cannot form a negative contraction using am and not. Your can be negative by adding not, so you're not, or we can write it as you aren't. Same can be said for we're not or we aren't. They're not, they aren't. He's not, he isn't. She's not, she isn't. It's not, it isn't. To form the past tense of the be verb, we have two forms. Again, the subject of the sentence will determine which form we use. If I have subjects I, he, she, or it, we use was or was not to form the negative. If I have subjects you, we, and they, we use were or were not. In the past tense, there are no positive contractions. There's only one form for the negative contractions. That's to join the be verb, was or were, with the word not to form wasn't or weren't. For example, I wasn't, he wasn't, she wasn't, it wasn't, you weren't, we weren't, or they weren't. To ask a yes or no question using the be verb, we have to form our sentence starting with the be verb, followed by the subject. For example, a yes or no question would sound like, is she a doctor? Are you from Saudi Arabia? Using the be verb in the past follows the same structure, but we need to change the be verb to indicate we're talking about the past. Were you late yesterday? Was he a good student? Again, much like in positive statements, the question, the subject of the question, will determine which form of be you use. For WH questions, we start first with the WH question word, who, what, where, when, why, or how, followed by the be verb, and then the subject. For example, who is she? What are you doing? Where are you from? When were you in Madrid? Why are you late? How are you? Now, let's take a practice quiz. Pause the video and select your answers. Once you've finished the quiz, hit the play button and we'll check your answers. Welcome back. Let's talk about your answers. Question 1. I blank a student in PYD at King Faisal University. Because we have the subject I, we have to use am. Therefore, C is the correct answer. Question 2. She blank a student in PYD. She is still in high school. Because we use she as the subject, we have to use is. We know if she's in high school, she can't be a student in the PYD. Therefore, we need the negative, and C is your answer. Question 3. The students blank happy to learn about be verbs. Because the subject of our sentence is plural, students, we need are, and A is the correct answer. Question 4. In 2005, Brad blank short and fat. Now, Brad blank tall and fat. In the first sentence, we have a clue that tells us we're talking about the past. In 2005. So we know we must use was or were. Because the subject is Brad, we use was. Now, in the second sentence, we have another clue, now. This talks about the present. Because our subject is Brad, we need is, and therefore D is your answer. Question 5. Blank hungry. Yes, I am. Because this is a question, we know we must start with the be verb. Therefore, B is your answer. Question 6. We had a bad fight, and now we blank friends. I will never talk to him again. Because we have the subject we know we should use the plural form of the be verb. So are. Now, because I will never talk to him again, this means we need the negative. Therefore, B is the correct answer. That's it for the listening book grammar in Unit 1. Class dismissed.